Hello, everybody. Welcome to the ninth edition of the BallNerd.com podcast. I'm your host, Daniel, and with me today I have Ian,
What's going on?
Nathan,
What's up?
and Peter.
Hello.
First off, I just want to get into the topic. Make sure you follow us on our social medias and our information sites. Make sure you check us out at BallNerd.com. We have lots of articles, reviews, videos, etc. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter. Yeah, and also subscribe to us on Twitch TV. That's where we'll be streaming lots of Twitch TV/BallerNerd. That's lots of different kinds of games. I stream every Tuesday. The Riders of Brohan, our League of Legends team that we follow, they stream regularly with their ranked games and even some general fun games. And of course, like us on Facebook as well. First off, let's just go ahead and jump into the games. For League of Legends this week, Darius was the patch that came out this week finally. They delayed it for, I don't know, 2 days or something like that. But he ended up coming out.
It was so broken. That's why.
Right? But he did come out. And with the patch, obviously, they made a couple changes. But the biggest one that was most outstanding to most people was obviously the new champion added. His name is Darius, the Hand of Noxus. He is like a Garen, but he's like the Noxian version of him. And I think he's actually viable towards the end of the game, whereas Garen's really not.
Kind of falls off, yeah.
Yeah, Garen pretty much wins his lane and then doesn't do anything. Ian, you played a couple games with him this week. What do you think?
Yeah, he actually we weren't expecting to see him in jungle much, but the games that I saw him, he was pretty much in jungle all the time. Great counter jungler. He's also, I mean, he's not the strongest out of the jungle, like into ganking lanes. But if he can get on top of you, if he can get his little pull off, he's doing a considerable amount of damage. He's got kind of like a pull, much like Nautilus has got a pull where he can pull you kind of to him, equidistant. And but with the thing that's really, really disgusting is the fact that he's got this ultimate that is basically like Garen's ultimate, and it refreshes, and he could just use it like as many times as he wants. And I don't really understand what they were thinking, because the game I was in, literally the guy like walked in a lane, we had a team fight going, he just like waited a little bit, tanked a bunch of damage, and then got a quadra kill. And it wasn't even because we were all really, really low. It was simply because that ultimate just hits, as you know, for like a truck if you're like on Garen or something like that. So it seemed to me like a severe lack of skill. Didn't really.
It's not really.
He had to press his button 4 times. That's some skill right there.
Well, he does that. I mean, he every time he hits you with an auto attack and puts a damage on using the ability on you, which one of them is an AoE. He puts a stack of his passive, which is a bleed, and every time he gets for every 1 stack of his passive, he gets 5% damage. He gets 20% damage on his ultimate.
Yeah.
So
20%.
20%. So at 5 stacks of his passive, his ultimate is doing 100 more damage. And you're already low. And it's true damage. True damage, that means, for people who don't know what true damage is, it's literally true. You're gonna take, if it's 500 damage, you're gonna take 500 damage. It's not gonna be mitigated by armor or
magic resist. Garen's ultimate is magic.
Yeah.
The one of the other things that's kind of weird about that too is that, I don't know if you guys remember, but like 4 or 5 months ago, maybe a little bit later, or maybe sooner, maybe a little bit longer ago, they actually took quite drastic measures to nerf bleed effects, because they felt like it really didn't
fit with how LoL worked.
Yeah, it didn't fit the kind of gameplay they were trying to develop. And now they add this character who's just like insane bleed effects. It seems kind of contrary to me.
I'm guessing maybe they thought it was a nice mechanic, and maybe they thought it would be something they could tune around, something different, because they can't really do that many different things with characters nowadays. But with how many bruisers they have now, like, oh, maybe we put something like try a different kind of resource kind of thing.
Well, go ahead, Daniel.
Well, they're still being creative with their champion mechanics. Granted, it is another bruiser, and And I think me and Cody were talking about it. Maybe it was last week we were talking with Zach about it, talking about how many bruises they come out with. It was with Zach last week during the podcast, but that's just because bruisers can a lot of bruisers jungle and play top, so they're filling two of their roles, not making a little squishy mage who does one thing,
Yeah.
or possibly two. But let's move on from Darius. Besides being broken, with the exception of, I read this one post on the league subreddit this week talking about it was just a funny post talking about I find my foe low. I finish him with Noxian Guillotine. Then I notice another foe wander out of the jungle. He attacks me twice. I hit him once, finish him with Noxian Guillotine. I see my teammate is slowly killing is winning this fight with another enemy Cho'Gath. So I walk over and Noxian Guillotine him, and then I thank him. Then I thank him for his help and whatever. Anyway, it's just a joke. Ash also got they did a complete remodel work for Ash. They changed
her model, right?
Yeah. Even for all of her skins.
Which is kind of weird because you think people paid money for that, and they kind of like, oh, I like the way this looks.
It was so damn old. I think it was almost a universal thumbs up.
Wow. If I was one of those people, I would totally get my money back.
Well, I think it looks pretty nice though. So
I mean, it looks good, but at the same time, like it's not. It seems kind of silly for a company to change something like you already paid for. I don't know.
Well, you have to also realize that
I never bought an Ash skin. I like Ash. Yeah. I like the player, but I never bought her skins because they look like shit. Just because her model looks like But I mean, they changed the way she shoots.
Pretty dopey.
Yeah, the way she shoots. I think even on one of the skins, like her arrow looks different. I think it's the amethyst one. But I think the arrow and the volley looks different. And obviously they updated her.
She was one of the first champions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was like really outdated then compared to all the new models.
Yeah, I'm surprised they did her first because she's an AD and there's so many of those, as opposed to the one support that is played on almost every game. Not talking about the one that nobody likes to play.
Soraka.
Yeah. The one.
I still can't tell what the heck Soraka is. Is it like
it's a unicorn goat demon?
Like a unicorn goat demon. Chupacabra.
I also thought her hair was like. I also thought her hair was like a mermaid tail or something. I was like, what the heck? Why is it mermaid in my game?
Right. And then they had some other changes here and there, obviously. Lots of bug fixes, a couple buffs, nerfs. Cho'Gath got one that's actually, I thought, was pretty substantial. That was interesting. His Rupture adds a ring on the ground now. Rupture's the one that knocks you up with spikes. So it actually puts a ring on the ground if it's red, if it's bad, and green if it's good. So now you know exactly where to go to get out of it. And that was all kind of the part with Rupture. Like, you kind of, obviously if you saw the spikes rumbling, you try to get out, but you weren't always sure if you were already in it or if it was a big cluster,
That was part of the fun of it too.
Yeah.
But I guess now it makes it easier for people to play against.
Exactly. Yeah, I was in a game against a Cho'Gath. It was like a jungle Cho'Gath. He ran down through his Rupture, and I was like, oh, okay. I ran and walked out. And there was much success.
Cho'Gath players will rage.
Yeah, right. And lots of bug fixes. They added a new item called Athene's Unholy Grail. It's basically a super mana regen. It's basically a blue buff, a walking blue buff. Pretty much what it is.
No.
It's got a bunch of ability powers, a bunch of magic mana regen, and every time you get a champion kill or an assist, it gives you 12% of your max mana.
Mana back? Or
yep,
mana.
So champions that needed it, like Anivia, Oriana's been played a lot. Anivia, Oriana, Heimerdinger, Karthus, I guess. But you don't really need it on Karthus. Champions like that. It's very popular. They also updated the graphics. We have a video displaying some graphic changes.
It runs like half. You get like double your
FPS.
Yeah. It helps a lot on like old people's computers who can't play League of Legends.
My friend was saying it was literally like 10 times better than what it was before. So that's really good. They also still haven't come out with a Mac client. They had a Mac client for a while, but then they just kind of like stopped giving support for it, and then I don't know.
Who plays games on Macs?
My roommate did. He couldn't. He had to install Windows on his computer so he could play League.
Is that the guy with a really crappy computer?
No, he had a MacBook Pro.
Uh, but even on like the regular high modes, it looks really nice now.
Yeah,
you can see the glass move.
It definitely seems like they're kind of like copying Dota 2. Like, I mean, almost exactly. Yeah. That's what it looks like. Although I think the graphics work a little bit better. They're not necessarily as smooth though as I was kind of expecting. Like if they go to the length of doing like this full overhaul, you think they'd be a little bit better, but I don't know.
Yep. Well, my theory is, I mean, it's not a graphic intensive game like other games that pride themselves on being like that. So it didn't have to be top of the line to me. As long as it's efficient, it works. There's nothing broken, like there's no rocks in the floor that you can't see or bullshit like that. Cody was making a complaint, and it was just him being whiny about it, I guess. Talking about some of the trees, the way some of the map looks different, so he wasn't sure if he could flash over this wall or actually he was playing Tryndamere, so he wasn't sure if he could spin and win through that wall.
Yeah.
Because he was in a game against Darius, or he was playing top against the Darius, and he was like, I wonder who I could pick. And I think him and Brett got into a fun little argument about Tryndamere cheating because of his ultimate. It was hilarious. You'd had to been there, but so Cody got like destroyed for the first like 8 levels, like crying the whole time. He's like, Brett, camp my lane. You're gonna have to stay up here the whole time. He's kicking my butt, and then he got his Infinity Edge on Tryndamere, and it was just disgusting.
That's game over.
Yep.
He's like, I'm good now.
Yeah, right. I kill you in 3 hits. Anyway, moving on. Let's move on to WoW this week. The beta is obviously still live, still going on strong. They're making changes every 20 minutes. One thing I wanted to talk about, we talked about it, hit on it last week. There was this legendary item called the Breath of the Black Prince. And pretty sure I'm thinking what it's going to be, and I've looked for it pretty extensively. I'm not sure. It says upgrade the power of any Shaw touched weapon, and it's legendary, so I assume it's going to make it the legendary quality, which legendaries have been the reason, the cause of many guild dramas, group dramas, even real life friend dramas over the years, and loot obviously in that game. People being selfish, greedy, thinking they're more important than others, etc. You name it, it's happened. Talking about how it could possibly be a guild breaker or a friendship breaker. As in, when the most recent one, the rogue daggers came out. Obviously, most guilds only had one rogue. Even if you, for like a 10-man, but even if you're a 25-man guild, one rogue obviously got it first. Usually you give it to the one who's been in the longest, or is the best one, or something, or the officer, something like that. My theory on legendaries is you give it to the people who give it. You don't give it to the person who's going to use it the best, because there's other items for that. And granted, they are better, but it's more of a respect and a reward thing. I'd give my legendary to somebody who has been there who has been running with the group for years, who shows up regularly, who helps out when he needs to. Not somebody.
Who's me?
Not somebody who logs on 5 minutes late, says, okay, where's my invite? And then like, oh, the group's not full? Okay, I'm gonna go play StarCraft. I'll be back in 20 minutes when when there's actually people here. This isn't worth, you guys aren't worth my time, etc. Just things like that. I would give mine out when I ran a group as a reward respect thing, not a numbers thing. But like with Dragon Wrath, there was obviously usually, most guilds had at least 2 classes in their 10-man raid who could use it. 2 DPS spellcasters, obviously going back to like Wrath of the Lich King, 25-man guilds, there was only 3 classes that could use a 2-handed axe, etc. But this one, everybody can use it. I assume everybody can use it. I assume it's even going to be good for tanks and healing. This is going to be the way to get the tank weapon, I assume. Or maybe a tank shield, or whatever. Or maybe it's a tank thing only, I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be like that, because at one point in this quest line, it's the same guy who does the rogue daggers, the Rathian guy that looks like the little Indian dragon.
Yeah.
He has a flavor text, and I think what I read, it says he says, oh, my favorite assassin is back. So I assume it can also be for rogues. So I don't think it's tanks only.
Oh, he's like druids only. that cat druids.
Priest only.
So just the drama that it could cause saying, oh, so in Mr. Pandaria, we're going to give this legendary to Steve. And, Steve's just a hunter. And, say he's the range DPS, and then there's I don't know, something like a melee DPS, like a warrior or something who's like, oh my god, I haven't gotten a legendary in forever. I've never even seen one. Wow. The hell with you guys. He leaves. And it just causes drama from then on out. Back in Wrath of the Lich King, back in Ice Crown Citadel, there was a couple trinkets. There was the Deathlodge Foreign Object, and there was the Deathbringers. Well, pretty much every time one of those dropped, somebody quit the guild. This wasn't a high-end rating guild. We were just a 25-man rating guild, just kind of middle of the road. Did things at our own pace. I don't even think we killed Lich King before the buffs went out. But every time, never failed. Even with the once we got to the part where you had to use the Shadow's Edge on certain bosses. You had to use an effect, like you had to drive the thing on Professor Future Side, or you had to stand in Cinerghost's breath, or you had to do something on Blood Queen. You had to get bit, I think, on Blood Queen or something like that.
There's drama about that.
Yeah, exactly. The second we hit that, people are like, "Oh, I want to do mine first. I want to do." When I'd already said who's going to get it first. It's dumb. I hate the fact that people get mad about that. It just
get mad about virtual items. You mean?
Well, like. Yeah. Stupidly mad. Like, you've been raiding with these people for 8 months, a year. You have close relationships, somewhat in game with these people, and you just throw it all away just because you're mad because somebody who's been there for 6 months longer than you is going to get a shot at the legendary, and not you. Also, you have to wonder the amount of people who are going to be starting their own 10-man raiding guilds for Mr. Pandaria. They're like, oh, I don't want to be in this guild anymore. Exactly. They'll be like, oh, I'm the guild master, so I'm going to take the first legendary.
Yeah.
So I think it's funny.
Respect and demand the first legendary.
Exactly. Which I think is the bullets of malarkey. But, keep checking in on the tabs on the beta. We'll keep posting some updates if anything major comes up about the Mr. Pandaria beta. So let's move on to Diablo this week. And I'm
much news.
I'm not going to allude to Diablo or make a joke about Diablo 3. I'm just going to say, let's move on to Diablo. Because that's my thoughts about it this week. First week of Diablo, excited. Like on a scale of 1 to Chris Brown, I was Chris Brown excited. Just
punching the shit out of Rihanna.
Just going crazy. Yes, just going to town. And now this week I'm like, actually I haven't played Diablo since...
Yeah, you guys raged the other day. You're like, this is crap. This is too hard. Freaking... stupid mobs, and then
it pretty much was. It seemed like they nerfed it somehow, because I don't die to the white mobs in Act 2 in 2 hits anymore.
I think it was just the packs we were running into.
The packs and just
RNG
playing in a group. It's just the guys are so damn, and it was 2 melees, and it was just the group compositions that we were running into, and having that many people.
It's sort of the same for Act 3 right now with all the heralds of pestilence. They throw their poison underneath you, but it's not. I don't die as quick anymore, so I'm just wondering.
But one of the things they said they're gonna make it so that you kind of have to kill certain groups first. Like I don't think we were really doing any sort of. We had no sort of strategy to hey, kill this guy first or anything like that. We're just kind of yeah, go in and right click, kill this shit.
It would just keep Daniel alive so he can pew pew with his laser.
Yeah, so I think that's really kind of what they were going for. Maybe it doesn't work so well in really small close quarters where you have just a bunch of AoE. It's kind of bullshit. But we're very close to Inferno mode. So let's see how the rest of the game pans out.
Yeah.
You mean I'm carrying you in Inferno mode?
I was talking to a friend of mine who's he's been playing Inferno for a while now, and pretty much he's a barbarian. He's got more than 55,000 health, something like that.
Yeah.
And he dies in one hit some mobs.
Huh.
Well, back to normal for me then.
Yep. He just one hit. Certain groups he comes up with, they obviously some packs on Inferno you just can't do. You just skip, and you get your and you would think, but you're trying to stack your Nephilim buff, your Nephilim Valor buff, so that's you get your bonus magic shrine for killing bosses, get all your rares and stuff, but you can't change your skills to stack that, so you have to pick your stuff and hopefully it works. But then you kind of have to, at least on these lower difficulties where there's no Nephilim buff, for me at least, I really on my wizard, I haven't found out anything that's just like works for everything, unless it's like 4 defensive skills with defensive runes. That's the
That's what
only
I'm
thing
running
that
right now,
needs to work.
basically.
Yeah, like if I switch up and run like a Frost Nova, odds are it's gonna be somebody with Vortex that. A group
Doesn't
with
really
lots of
matter.
vortex that every time I freeze, I freeze and run away. I get sucked back in and I'm dead, etc.
Yeah.
Since I haven't played much this week, but the real money auction house was delayed again to a later date that's unspecified. First, it was going to come out the 22nd.
Surprise.
Yeah, right. It's going to come out the 22nd. We're going to give the game a week to let it, I guess, sit and develop
Probably
its
just
economy.
collect data.
I thought it was the 29th now.
Well, it
basically.
was going to be 22nd, and then it was going to be the 29th. And I think they said they updated it again.
Yeah.
It's done coming out, guys. Never.
It's definitely because of the items. I mean, I think that what they didn't anticipate is that people would be hanging on to stuff more than they are.
Well, you have so many items you get, and you don't. There's like when you equip it, you don't lose it. So you just use it and then toss it back on the auction house.
Yeah, which I mean, it seems like just terrible. I mean, you should maybe be able to sell something once, and then it has like some sort of effect where it like degrades. I think that would take care of the problem.
Just make the legendary items. Besides, make them useful and make them legendary. Make them bind. Make some of them bind.
Yeah.
Make them that good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And let's go and talk about the item system. So in Diablo, there's blues, which are magic items. There's also grays, which are vendor trash, crap. Then there's whites, which are good up until like level 7. And then there's magic items, and then there's rare, which are yellow, which have different stat bonuses and properties. And then there's the sets, which I don't know how many. I think there's like 4 sets.
Green,
I don't know.
They're
green.
They're not even good.
No, I understand that. I'm just talking about.
They look nice though. That's all.
You get set. It makes you look cool, but you don't do any damage because you suck. And then there's legendaries, which are the vaunted gold drops in the game. You're like, oh my god, I got a legendary. Oh wait, it sucks. I can't use it.
Yeah.
Because magic items, which are blues, and yellow items, which are rares, 9 times out of 10 are better than legendaries.
See,
so they're harder to get, and they're shit.
Maybe they should do it in this way: that I guess legendaries you could get still could be better than, or maybe this is the way they have it, and I just didn't know that in the first place. But the legendaries you could get could hypothetically be better. You just have to like get the stats for that item that are much better.
What are you referring to? Like the
So like, okay, because it's random number generation for like your blues and these other things, and the legendaries have
get a perfect legendary.
Yeah, something essentially like that.
That could be the case.
So do you think those are better than the blues?
Well, I saw this. When you look at certain items on the internet or on databases, it'll say this damage of this weapon is 540 through 750.
Yeah.
Obviously, the damage doesn't range that far. That's a long range. It could be from this to this. Obviously, perfect would be the 750 in that example, and then the stats would obviously be different. I assume. I don't know, but this was a sword I'm referring to. There was a blue sword that dropped. There was this post on some website that linked that said the sword was like 1,041 damage, which was blue.
Right. Yeah.
And that was just straight up 300 damage more than
the legendary.
A legendary sword. Some items are better, like I've heard stories.
But is that not to say that the legendary couldn't have that stat, though?
It might have better stats, but 300. But everything in this game right now is decided on weapon damage, even for me. Even for what was it? When I didn't understand, because I'm playing, I'm like, okay, cool. I've got this little wand that does like 80 damage. But it's got like 100 intelligence. I was like, oh, this is cool. Got doing lots of damage. I'm like, oh my, okay, I got this. I just found this crossbow on the auction house. It's 299 damage or something like that. I'm like, oh, it can't be good. I put it on. My damage goes up by like 4,000 or 3,000.
Yeah.
So I go from struggling in like Nightmare to one-shotting everything all the way to hell. I'm like, so weapon damage is really that strong for a wizard? And obviously when you reach
homogenization.
Yeah, when you reach your tooltips, it says, 220% weapon damage, 100% weapon damage. So some abilities are obviously stronger than others based off weapon damage. But weapon damage is God right now. Some things I have strength on it. Especially when I was leveling, I was like, oh, this weapon didn't have any intelligence on it, but it's got 100 more damage. Yeah, I'll take it. Because that'll just amplify it.
Yeah.
So weapon damage is broken right now, basically is what I'm trying to say. Broken to a point of not being fun, of where wizards are running around with crossbows and maces instead of.
But I mean, does the weapon you have really affect the gameplay all that much? I mean, it is kind of silly.
It's just silly. That's all.
And that's what aggravates you.
It doesn't really. That doesn't aggravate me. It's the item design that aggravates me. I don't care about running around with a crossbow. I think it's funny actually. When I run into arcane power, I go ka-dunk, ka-dunk, ka-dunk. Right now, I'm actually using a one-handed mace and a little offhand little orb that floats. But
yeah.
And I'd probably be using that for the next 6 months because I don't intend on playing that much. I might get my guy to 60. I don't know. I don't feel like beating my head against the wall. Because in Diablo, going back to the items were the means and the end.
Yeah, so it was like a giant hamster wheel, basically.
Yes, referring to, it takes items to get up there and do lots of damage. It takes items to get items. Now it takes items to get items, but it takes blues. Back then it took blues and rares
to get yellows
to get legendaries.
Yeah.
Get the in the sets, the awesome armors, the awesome gears, the really cool stuff that everybody just wanted crazy. When you saw a gold ring drop off of a boss, your heart started pumping. You got excited, not only because of the fact you had to steal it from somebody, but just because you got super excited because you're like, oh my god, that's an SOJ more than likely. That's awesome. When you had a yellow or a gold paladin shield, I don't remember the name of it, Zakharum shield or something like that. You knew exactly what it was. You were just excited. You were like, oh my god, I got this. And even if it wasn't for you, you trade that thing, get something really cool. Yeah. Now you're like, oh my god, I got this blue. Let me look. I got 15 blues in my inventory. Let me see if any of them are good before I just vendor them for 200 gold or salvage them for some parts or whatever.
And it also seems like that's really going to adversely affect what they're trying to do with the real money auction house. I mean, it seems like the most logical thing they could have done was simply just like make the real money auction house, based on these sort of like items that are far superior.
Mm-hmm.
The max you can sell an item for is what, $250. What item is going to be worth $250 when you just run around and pick up a blue and be like, hell yeah?
I wouldn't pay $2 for a blue because it's a blue. It's random. You don't even know the name of it. That's what thing. You want a memory, a name. After you finish playing your game, you're laying in bed, you're at work, you're at your friend's house, you're at whatever you're doing, you're at dinner. You're thinking, oh my god, I just got a storm shield. That was cool. I love this. This item is awesome. Not, oh my god, I just got flaming crossbow of the bear that does lots of damage.
Yeah.
It's not something memorable. It's not like, man, do you remember when your wind force dropped and how excited you were? I have a friend of mine, I can actually tell him that story. He can recite it back when we were doing cow levels. Now it's, man, do you remember when you got that bow off the auction house for $15? Like, yeah, man, I spent $15. Like, you want to go eat food? No, man, I bought a blue bow for $50. I can't buy. Sorry. Oh, I got that bow was so good. What's it called again?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Is it a crossbow or is it a longbow? I don't know. Is it a bow at all? Is it a gun? Is it a cat? I don't remember.
Doesn't matter. I do tons of damage.
Fire spiders.
I totally understand what you're saying now. Like it, and that just seems like. That's the thing too. Like it adds to the longevity of the game. Diablo 2 stayed around for so long because of the fact that it was just kind of like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go, start another character or do hardcore or,
yep.
I still have items I want.
And I think if they do that, if they make their legendary item system and their set item system exactly like Diablo 2, copy it 100%. I think that'll be better than what they have now.
Right.
Because I didn't. Besides the fact that gold was worthless in Diablo 2, there wasn't really anything wrong with it to me personally.
Yeah.
Other people might have different opinions, of course.
Well, they could still make gold work in this game if they just make repair costs like insane and
1 million per repair.
No, I mean really, like that's
kind of repairs still aren't too bad. My friend Hunter was telling me, the guy who's playing Inferno, that some gold piles drop in the thousands, like 1,000 gold in a boss drops a gold pile, and his highest repair bill's been like 4 or 5K. Granted, he's doing it a whole lot.
Yeah.
But if you're still, I know. It's back to what you were saying about making it really expensive. That could be a way. It's more of a fun tax than anything, but I do see what you're saying.
Yeah, but it makes it just a skill base too, because it's like, oh, I'm really skilled, so I save more money.
I save money on repairs. I save money on repairs by switching to Geico. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
10% or more.
So
50%.
And I do think this is going to affect the longevity of Diablo. I mean, it's affected the longevity for me. I'll still play it every once in a while. I made a Demon Hunter. I made a Barbarian. I still like my Wizard.
You should play with us right now. I think we're both almost 60.
Yeah, I'm 58. Yeah. I'm 58 in Act 3. I could get on and play, but I don't want to play right now. I'd actually rather just sleep. But it's affect the longevity. We'll see how the auction house takes off or doesn't, or if it ever comes out. They said that they were going to delay it to fix some of the server side issues and fix other issues with
other unnamed issues. Like it sucks.
Yeah, you put
basically
100 reasons and a half, pull one out. That's probably what they're fixing.
Yeah, because right now the auction house breaks like every other day for some like different reasons each time. So they need to really work on the stability side of it before they even consider putting money on it right now. Because as it is right now, half your stuff like basically just disappears whenever you put it on.
I lost probably like $500,000 worth of stuff the other day. I had some really good items and they're just gone.
Yep. Imagine if you had tried to sell something, you were selling
real money.
Those items for real money. You know, if you had $100 of worth of real auctions and it was gone, you know, $100 is a lot to a lot of people. When you play a video game, $100 is a lot to everybody on a video game.
Yeah.
Because it's entertainment value.
You can buy 2 more Diablos almost.
Yeah, for your friends. Get them to farm for you. Just like lock them in your room.
Yep.
I bought you this game. You get my money back.
Anyway, moving on. Peter, you there? Or
yeah,
okay.
I'm here. It's been cutting in and out, but
yeah, I saw you.
I'm here for now.
I figured you were. I was just making sure you were still here. You been doing anything with StarCraft this week?
Battlegrounds is coming up for in Austin, Texas.
Not going.
Huck is everyone's hoping Huck is going to be making a comeback. If you don't know, Huck is Canadian. He's been doing amazing, but the past month or two he's kind of been slipping. So everyone's kind of hoping that maybe Huck will come back in this. There's not very many foreigners in this tournament. I'd say I checked like 5 or 6, so that's somewhat disappointing.
Yeah. Huck's tournament play though is usually typically really good. Because I know he was struggling really bad for like the first year, and then was it MLG he won? No, he won something else.
Yeah. And then he was the first foreigner to win 2 MLGs in a row, I believe.
So I think he's definitely a tournament player. I can identify with that.
I think he just needs to get off his habit of relying too much on 2-basing. It seems he does enjoy going, not necessarily all in, but at least going close to it. I remember seeing him a couple times 8-gate, and he had nothing to switch to after that failed. And he's actually 8-gated before and then not actually gone through with it. And so then he just has an extra 2-gate sitting around being useless. That's 300 minerals right there down the drain. But if he just switches that up, I'm sure he can be fine. Work on expanding a little bit quicker. Maybe tinker around with some Stargate play more so than he has been.
More void rays. Always need more void rays.
Pretty much.
Let's see what else.
Part of the Swarm News.
MLG Spring Arena was last weekend again. I was unable to watch it due to money and due to Diablo. So
Diablo ruined everything.
But Violet won that. And the one part that really disappointed me about this whole thing was that Stefano apparently made his way through the winners bracket, got knocked down to the finals of the losers bracket, and then he got knocked out by Symbol, who then lost to Violet anyway. But whenever I see especially Stefano, I love Stefano. He's great. But whenever I see a foreigner make it so high and then lose, I think we're all disappointed.
Well, people have their ups and downs, so.
Yeah.
That's one of the things about StarCraft, though. Like, there can only be one winner. It's kind of a shame too, because it really, I think it undercuts the true amount of skill these people have. It doesn't really afford the opportunity for a ton of people to really just kind of like excel.
You won the economy game. You won the actual game.
Yeah, they don't hand out like best economy, like
different awards.
So
that's basically like
that's how it is in every sport game.
Consolation prize.
Yeah, but
your base looks like a smiley face.
Most colorful base.
Best SimCity base, you mean?
Coolest arranged base, yeah.
And then what is it Marine King or MMA? One of these guys is to take a break because he was like having some spine problems, and so.
I think it's like Marine King.
Yeah. Which is sad. I followed him since when he was a boxer, or as people called him, Foxer, because he was the fake boxer.
Yeah.
He was really I liked him, even though he was a Terran player. I liked him.
That's what he said.
Spam Marines win games.
Everyone was kind of blown away when he first came onto the scene, and he was able to dodge banelings with his Marines so well that that I forget he was playing with whoever's banelings it was did nothing. And it was on creep, so it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, he basically magic boxed the Marines, didn't he?
That's magic boxing.
I know, but I said like
Mulus
for the Thors, but I mean like essentially he did the same thing with Marines. He spread them out enough so that they're not able to take any damage.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Last little bit of news that I wanted to talk about was Brood War players are now slowly starting to go into StarCraft. We've seen this, but now the SPL is trying to integrate StarCraft 2 into their tournament as well, which is probably going to increase a lot of Brood War players switching on to StarCraft. And the one thing I think that might hurt this is that these Brood War players did not come over right away. They're not. They don't know all the nuances. They might get discouraged by the fact that people have 2 years lead over them. They're thinking they're the shit with their with all their great Brood War knowledge, and then realize that they don't know enough about StarCraft 2 to be able to compete, and so maybe they'll back down from that. We'll have to see about that, but.
One of the things I've been reading too, Peter, I don't know if you've heard this, that essentially League of Legends has become a little bit more popular over in Korea than nearly any other game, and it's starting to gain this kind of like equivalency of tournament play and these other things that StarCraft 2 had garnered for the last like 10 years. So.
Yeah, League of Legends is definitely starting to surpass StarCraft in terms of popularity over there.
What do you think that's going to do in terms of the StarCraft scene? Is it going to diminish it? Is it going to like go away?
Well, I think it's going to be it won't really be affected all that much because they're two different games. One is more of a strategy game, while the other is more of a you control one guy and work with 5 other people kind of game. So it's catered to two kind of different crowds. And you don't really have to only play one or the other. You can still play both. So I think it'll be pretty much.
But at that level, Cal, that level of play, you really can't play both.
No, I mean like for the watchers, so they want to watch both.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought you were saying like.
I think right now, I like watching StarCraft games, but then I also like watching some of my friends play League of Legends with a new spectator mode, and I can enjoy both games just fine. I don't need to just say, oh, StarCraft is better than League of Legends. So I just want to watch that and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not like a one game suits all kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. They're different. Moving on this week, let's talk a little bit about
TLDR.
just very general. What do you guys think makes any type of online game fail? This could be an online game such as StarCraft or such as like a real a RTS game like that, or it could be an MMO,
Star
or it could be
Wars.
an FPS, or it could be anything. I'm being very broad. The reason why I bring this up is uh, talks about Diablo since it came out have just been negative. People running down the street butt naked with pitchforks, head towards California, just crazy. So I'm just, and they say obviously when when you call a game it's gonna flop, this first week it's just it's silly. And that game, the Kingdom of Amalur or whatever the hell it was,
Yeah,
Yep.
38
Yeah.
38 Studios closed
Went
down
broke.
recently, which apparently Kurt Schilling, which is the old baseball pitcher, runs it or something. I read
Yeah.
all that. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, baseball pitcher.
Yeah.
So just what do you, Ian? I'm just gonna go ahead and just walk
Yeah,
walk
roundhouse
around the
this.
table. What do you think
Well,
about it, Ian?
I think a large aspect of it is actually community. If you've got, look at these two things. I'll use two examples. One, look at this. I don't know if you guys have heard of Kickstarter, but essentially it's this website where you can donate money to projects that people post up that they think are popular and or that people want. And so there are these older games that didn't really have development communities like planning on like kind of revamping a game or producing a sequel or whatever. But then the company decided, hey, let's throw up a Kickstarter project and see what people, what fish bite on the hook, so to speak. And they've raised a couple $1 million in capital, and like just
And scammers.
out of thin air, it seems. So it seems like they're definitely there's a community element which can not only build games and essentially like keep them popular and keep them going, but also look at, I think, Eve Online is a total sandbox game, and it's been going for 8 years, I believe, and it was a game started in Iceland, I believe, or at least it was developed in Iceland, and now I think there's like 200,000 people who like live in Iceland or something like that, and the game population for that game is like way over the continent of Iceland. It's something like 500,000, something ridiculous, but it's these like consistent players, and it's this persistent environment created by these developers that essentially allows for community, and it's something that people can kind of like talk about, like you and I are talking about this right now. I think that more than anything, at least for me in my view, is what adds the longevity of a game. If it doesn't have that, it's just gonna die.
Well, I think for me, it's mostly how well they deliver on their promises for the game. Like if you guys promised, like for Star Wars, they promised something totally different than World of Warcraft, which is kind of like their basic premise for the whole game. It's Star Wars and all that stuff. But then they kind of made it a
World of Warcraft clone.
Yeah, basically. And that was kind of worse in some aspects, but wasn't really good enough in the others to make it really worthwhile to play. And now they only have, I think, like they came out with a
sales figure.
Yeah, that they only have like 250 people per server at a time, like online. And I was like, wow, that's kind of
shitty.
Crap. Yeah. So apparently they didn't really deliver on their stuff, and that kind of like drove people away. And also kind of because EA, BioWare.
What about, I don't know, in terms of that, I see that more as their kind of like sales model. I think Star Wars should have been free to play. Perfectly honest, just with the way the graphics are, like the market they're trying to attack, Because all these games like that have essentially tried to compete with WoW and have very similar kind of like builds. They're just offering something a little bit different. Granted, I think BioWare offers a little bit more comprehensive storyline, but the thing is that the people are unwilling to kind of like deviate from something they kind of already know because the community aspect's already there. But I think the business model, it's like, well, why should I pay $15 a month for an experience that's not all that different and I have to start from zero?
Yep. Why should I pay
Well,
$15 a month for a Mass Effect story? The story
yeah.
in Star Wars
Well,
is very good. The single player campaign story, it has to be single player. Is very
yeah.
fun.
But the thing is even once you play it once, you don't really need to play it again because it's kind of like a one-shot deal kind of thing where
Yeah.
you have
Yep,
one story
mostly.
for each class. So it's basically,
Replayability is not there.
yeah, basically.
Well,
That's
why
kind of like,
MMOs they have in game, but most people in Star Wars didn't make it to in game. I never did. Because I really didn't like the group.
couple of the fact that kind of
Right.
sucked.
Anyway,
during
what do you think, Peter, about what makes online games fail?
You know, with Ian talking about the community, the problem is that, yeah, community definitely is a big part of it, but how do you get that community, first of all? And how do you keep the community staying? I mean, the community can kind of build off itself after a while, but you have to at least get them to keep playing. And say you have a game such as WoW, and you never update it, you just let it sit there, and people play.
Make money.
After a while, everyone's going to get max gear. There's going to be nothing to do. So you have to kind of create some kind of endless chores to do, some kind of endless objectives where you can always get more and more of something, or a single amount of endless things you can get. And it seems that Eve kind of has that built in with you talking about Eve.
Sandbox title, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, especially now that there are connections you can make. It's not just, guilds or anything. These structured organizations that the game dictates, it's just open to whatever people choose to do. And the fact that there's this for Eve built on top of the fact that they actually do introduce new things here and there, I think is one thing that's really made Eve last for so long. And even with Warcraft, how long has it been around now? Like
10 years almost.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I feel old.
we do see it slowly starting to decline with the pandas and the whatnot,
The pandas.
and Titans getting all geared up. Anyway, it definitely has to do with the community, but also hooking the community in the first place with
See, I think, yeah,
gameplay.
Well, I think WoW really, I mean, it was a pioneer game from the get-go. And then as it gained popularity, people are like, hey, you should try this game. People got kind of like inundated into this kind of like MMO genre that was really, I mean, pretty much non-existent before. I mean, like EQ2, I have a buddy to this day who still plays that game. He's just like, I don't like World of Warcraft. I mean, he played WoW, he raided, done all these other things, but he just goes back to EQ2. And I think, he tells me, he's just like, it's a system that he likes, but primarily because he's more comfortable with it. So it's kind of like whatever gets kind of like into the market first is really kind of like gonna hold on to that market share. And I think that's why WoW has done so well. It is a time investment, and people don't want to leave that. That's pretty natural, it seems.
It's also that it's like a really accessible game. Like you just hop in and play, and especially with all the free trials now that you can try out the game.
I hated the accessibility of that game. I was just like, I want to get on a raid when I want to get on a raid. You can't do that.
Oh, you can now.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not
Yeah.
fun. You can.
Really?
Raid Finder.
Back in the old days, you had to get the 40 men together and everything.
But
so.
are you still
Well,
locked into
uphill
a
two
queue or
ways.
what?
We're locked into a what?
Are you locked into like, oh, I can only raid once a
No.
week or something?
Yeah, there's a way the loot works. You can only get loot. You're only eligible for loot one time a week when you kill the boss.
Huh.
Something like, I don't know how they might have changed it. I haven't kept
But
track.
are the raids like
I've-
still stupid easy, or is it just
Raid Finder is easier than it's like a Everything's easier. It's 25 man only, but it's easier.
And the loot the same as
The loot is the
No,
same as regular
it's
10.
Oh,
No, it is. It's lower. You're right.
yeah, it's a little bit lower.
It's one out of tier lower. Anyway, I'll give my spiel of what do I think makes an online game fail, and then we'll wrap it up. I think every one of you guys mentioned very valid points. I agree with all of those points. I agree the community is a major aspect of it. If you have no community, obviously you have no people to pay you for the game. I think the people have to pick their spots. The way the market is current is at the time. That's why I think BioWare failed. BioWare made like Ian said, BioWare made a game that had EA made a game that takes $15 a month to play, but this is the time where the market is curving to a free to play cash shop sort of market. I think even like there's something we'll call like the Secret World or whatever that's supposed to be coming out in July, and it's you buy the box. It's like wow, you buy the box and you pay a subscription fee, so that's just gonna flop. Call it now. I don't care how good it is.
No, I totally agree. There's nowhere near enough intrigue to get people to go out and shell that much money out.
Yep. The reason why is most people have their staple game that they play. For most of the people out there,
Yep.
and it's getting less and less as time goes on, is WoW, World of Warcraft. They pay $15 a month for that. That's done. They in their mind they have said I am paying this much for this game. If you're an annual pass like me, you're gonna pay it anyway because you're in an annual pass, unless you find some way to get out of it. So if I'm gonna play, that's why I didn't play Star Wars because I'm like I'm paying $30 a month. And I make good money, and I don't spend a lot of money, but I don't want to pay $30 a month for 2 games because when I split time between both of them and I don't play either one really. As of right now, whereas I could play, I could play Diablo or League of Legends or any other games. Even if it's a game where you buy the box, you buy the game itself, and the game itself is free, and maybe there's some cash shop items that make it a little bit better. That's the model I agree with. I think the community, like Ian said, was a major thing. Like when Nathan brought up the Star Wars has such small servers. There's been posts on different websites talking about making mega servers like they did in DC Universe Online. Basically, the servers got so damn small that they were useless. You couldn't find anybody else anywhere. Yeah. So they had to make, like for DCUO, there's a PvE server and there's a PvP server. That's it. And there's lots of people on these servers. These servers work just fine. There's no when the game first went free to play, it was a clusterfuck. But it's just fine now, the way it works. So I think they'll eventually do that.
I think
the based on whatever type of game it is, its skill level that it takes, in addition to its in correlation to its time investment is also important for some people, which is it's not as pop like League of Legends, any game that's very very skill based. League of Legends, StarCraft, some parts of World of Warcraft, I guess. If the game is not hard enough, like if you played Diablo and normal mode was as hard as it got. Nobody played that game, right?
Yeah.
But if it was like if every game out there was like Inferno right now, where you're just getting killed in one hit until you make your way through it, so you smash your head on the wall hard enough until you break through the wall, and ignore the blood and the guts and everything. I don't think that would work either. So it depends on what it is. Like WoW right now is too easy for a lot of people, so they don't play it. A lot of people for Inferno right now for Diablo it's too hard. They don't play it. Some certain parts of League of Legends, some people don't like. Some people don't like the community in League of Legends. They don't play it. It's just, or maybe they're just not good enough to do the whole. I know a couple people that aren't good enough to I'm not good enough to micromanage, so I don't like playing StarCraft. Just because I haven't given it its fair shot per se, but I'm not good enough. I'm not at the point where I can do all the intricate things. I'm just like, look at my base. Oh. That's the little guy. Oh, that's all. Okay, I'm gonna send some guys out. Oh my God, what have I been? How does this guy have this much? What the hell is going? That's my thought. And that's just how I am. So I just don't play StarCraft. Cool. So I think like the skill level in correlation to the time investment. If it takes you if it takes you twice as long to get better at the game than most people do, then why would you want to play the game? Because let's face it, not everybody out there is skilled at certain things. Some people are good at things, some people are good at others. Some people are good at making apples, some people are good at making oranges. So you just got to find what's good for you, and whatever community has better at this than others, that game will possibly flourish, such as other games have, like World of Warcraft back when it was classic, Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, when people liked the game. People still do, don't get me wrong. They still have, I don't know, 10 million subscribers, but
do you think there's some sort of effect where game companies see the success of World of Warcraft and they're like, oh, we've got to emulate, not necessarily emulate, but we've got to essentially get to that level. We've got to reach their level of player base. Otherwise, we can't really measure our success.
Any company who tries to reach the World of Warcraft level of player base,
it's gonna fail, basically. Yeah.
They're basically trying to hit the moon with an arrow, in my opinion, just because there's only so many people that play video games. I mean, there's lots of people. Don't get me wrong. There's millions and millions of people, but especially if it's a subscription, if it's a pay-to-play kind of a game, I don't know if that's getting 10 million, 15 million, 12 million people to play your game before you consider yourself successful. You know.
Well, World of Warcraft was more of a phenomenon. They never anticipated it.
That's exactly my point. Exactly. They weren't saying, man, we're gonna make this game 15 million people, easy. No, I'm sure it was 2 million people, easy. They didn't think it was gonna explode the way it did, because that game is not supposed to be out this long. That's why they're just pulling stuff out of a hat. And Activision's got with their puppet streams.
Yeah, you just remember when they first announced they're gonna make Warcraft a MMO game. Everyone was like, "What the fuck? Why are they even trying this?"
Yeah.
It's probably
I didn't understand it.
Everybody said, even me, I said that thing is gonna fail. No one's gonna play a MMO with Warcraft. It's gonna ruin the franchise and all that kind of stuff. And then when it took off, I was like, "What the hell? This happened."
That's really funny that you mentioned that, because when that game was coming out, I'm saying it's gonna fail, it sucks, and that's after this, we're wrapping it up. But every game that's come out since of it is a WoW killer. Taking down Goliath. I mean, Age of Conan, Star Wars: The Old Republic, Ion, Rift, Warhammer. Yeah, I can't remember anymore. So, but these games were hyped up, ungodly amounts of hyped up. People, I mean, friends of mine telling me Age of Conan, it's gonna kill WoW. I'm like, what? Does anybody even play that anymore?
No.
So obviously their thing failed, and I think part of that is actually attributed to WoW itself. If WoW wasn't there, a lot of these games would actually do better. They would be different because they wouldn't have these same things.
They wouldn't have anything to compare it to, basically.
Exactly. I think those games would actually be better. They would have their own. They had to have a chance. They had their own game, not a World of Warcraft clone that looks a little different. That looks looks Asian based. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Anything left to say, Ian, about the website that's coming up this week?
Nope. We're getting more articles coming in every day. So
a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd really check us out. Also, we have been putting up a ton of little guides for Diablo 3 exploits. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, definitely check us out, because that's the place where you're going to get the best information, guaranteed. Yep. That's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch TV. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Make sure you check us out at ballnerd.com. Read some of our articles. Leave some comments. We'd love to talk with you. Keep checking back. We might be doing some fun things up here in the future. And everybody from here at ballnerd.com, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace. Bye-bye.